सीधे वॉशिंगटन लिए चलते हैं, जहां प्रधानमंत्री की अमेरिका यात्रा से संबंधित एक प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस भारतीय विदेश मंत्रालय के द्वारा आयोजित की गई।
Prime Minister visited the Arlington National Cemetery. He also went to the Space Shuttle Columbia Memorial, and then he participated in a very important program with the US Attorney General for the return of some cultural artifacts to India. So to brief you on Prime Minister, our Ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Arun Kumar Singh, I will request him to, take you through the Prime Minister's engagements for the day, and then he is open to taking a few questions. With that, I give the floor to Ambassador.
Thank you, Vikas. I think much of the program and its elements are already known and covered, but just to give some details, the last program that was there was an interaction with heads of a number of think tanks, and the think tanks that were represented there were from Brookings, Council on Foreign Relations, Center for American Progress, the Atlantic Council, Hudson Institute, Center for National Interest, Global Energy Capital, Carnegie Endowment, the Asia Group, Pew Research Center, the US Institute of Peace, and the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. So this is sort of think tanks representing a whole spectrum of opinion here. And the aim of the interaction was to understand from them how they see global trends in the coming years, the challenges, and what US and India could work together. Keeping in mind, if you recall, among the templates that the Prime Minister has articulated is what can US and India do together for the world, and that was really the theme. So it was in that framework that different current global issues were discussed in a medium and longer term perspective, and we looked at opportunities and ways for us to be able to work together. Now, in terms of the ceremony for a return of a number of cultural artifacts, that was again very, very significant. It is an effort that has been made ongoing for some time. There are a large number of cultural artifacts from India who have been illegally taken to different parts of the world. There is a certain number also in the United States. But the governments in different countries, including the United States, have been working very, very actively with us to identify those and find a way to repatriate them to India. It's an ongoing process because sometimes processes have to be completed here in the United States before the repatriation can be carried out. There are legal, judicial process and others. But for this particular ceremony, 12 pieces were identified as being ready to be handed back to the government and people of India. And these are significant because some of them date back to 1,000 years from the period of the Chola dynasty. Some of them date back to more than 2,000 years, some terracotta pieces and others. So they're very significant items, and now they've been handed over to us, and of course they will now be repatriated to India. And again, in terms of these ceremony at Arlington, it was in broadly two parts. First was wreath laying at the memorial to the unknown soldier, and so that was there. And then, and from the US side, the US Defense Secretary, Mr. Ashton Carter, was also present. And then the Prime Minister laid wreath at the memorial for those who were on the Columbia shuttle, whereas an Indian origin astronaut, Kalpana Chawla, was also involved in that. And then at the event, we had representatives from the family, some relatives of Kalpana Chawla who were present. Then another Indian origin astronaut, Sunita Williams, was also present on the occasion. And some representatives from NASA were present because, again, cooperation between India and US in space has been an important area of cooperation. Thank you.
Yes. Please identify yourself.
Yeah. This is Abhishek from Times Now. Sir, I need a little bit more elaboration on the kind of format that was followed with the think tank heads. Was it like a question-answer session? And you know, there is this issue we have observed in the last couple of visits that there is an element of perception crisis. They think that reforms are not taking place at the right pace. And day before yesterday, there was this article in NYT which said that India is perhaps not very deserving of membership of NSG. So was this exercise essentially about perception management? And in terms of that format, I mean, the reason why I'm asking the format is, were there questions which were answered by the Prime Minister?
So I don't know whether one should go into that much detail, but I can tell you this exercise was not aimed at perception management. This exercise was aimed at, as I described, understanding how thought leaders here, leaders of think tanks, look at global issues and trends. What do they visualize and see as medium and longer term challenges? In those, what are the opportunities for India and the United States to be able to work together to address those challenges in a way that would meet India's national interest and of course would be of interest to the US. And normally when there are events like this, there is a structure and there's a free-flowing dimension. And so the broad structure is for people to share their thoughts and the Prime Minister to share his thoughts at the end of it and his assessment of what things are. And if there are any particular questions, those are responded to as part of the response. So I think the focus really was, and in terms of the specific question that you referred to, look, in all democracies there will be different shades of opinion. And you referred to one particular assessment about economic reform or whatever. But I can tell you, I hear from a large number of people here that there is a very, very positive assessment of the reforms that have taken place in India over the last 2 years. And you have to just look at the facts. That US equity investment in India, for example, which was $7 billion in 2013, is $12 billion today. And FDI flows into India last year went up by 50%. So if you just look at facts, you can see that there is a recognition of the tremendous amount of progress that has taken place in India over the last 2 years. And people are, in a sense, voting with their feet or with their wallets to be a part of that opportunity. And we see that happening on the ground. Yeah.
Good evening, Ambassador. First of all, compliments on the way you pushed back about not being preachy in the Washington Post. And I'm Nikhila Natarajan from First Post, New York. Any pointers on the top talking points in the US Congress address by Mr. Modi?
Too early. So no, as I said, this briefing is specifically on Prime Minister's schedule today in the United States. If you have any questions pertaining to that, please, Ambassador is available. Tomorrow there will be a separate briefing after the Prime Minister's engagements at the White House. Foreign Secretary, I think, will be available for that briefing. So no point, foreshadowing in advance what will be discussed, what will not be discussed. All that will be answered tomorrow. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. We'll go ahead. India Global Asia today. Sir, Indian American community in Washington has been working very hard for the last 2-3 months to how to welcome the Prime Minister tomorrow. And any message for this community, because they are for India and they are for the Prime Minister's agenda. And what they are asking is if anything they can do what they have been doing in the past. And second, sir, these 2 years of the Prime Minister's 2 years is the talk of the town around the globe, including in America and among the Indian American community. And since Prime Minister was in Switzerland, so is he going to bring all that money sitting there? Thank you, sir.
As far as Prime Minister's visit to Switzerland is concerned, you would have seen Prime Minister's press remarks. Clearly, there was a meeting of minds on the issue of black money, tax evasion. The Swiss president himself said that Switzerland is not a country which encourages these practices. Switzerland is a country which wants to be part of the international mainstream on these matters. And of course, there will be further cooperation between India and Switzerland. The second big issue that was discussed in Switzerland was India's membership of the Nuclear Suppliers Group. And there also you have seen a very categorical assurance of support from the Swiss president himself, saying that Switzerland will support India's membership in the Nuclear Suppliers Group. So that is as far as Switzerland is concerned. The questions that you have asked, do not really pertain to Prime Minister's program today, but if Ambassador wants to make a generic comment on, the Indian American community.
So I think as far as the reference to the Indian American community is concerned, clearly from Prime Minister's visits earlier, the ongoing visit, and his own comments, it is clear that he sees a very important role for the Indian American community in advancing the relationship between India and the United States. And it is on that basis that we engage with them on a continuous basis.
I think.
So my name is Anti, I'm from Times Now. So we have been speaking to a couple of think tanks in the past 2 days, and most of them were of the opinion that in the interaction that will take place between the Prime Minister and various members of the think tanks today, there could be some reference to what could be India's stand as far as security, as far as terrorism is concerned. My question is, was anything on those lines discussed, or were there any questions that were taken up by the Prime Minister? And I do understand that today's briefing is only regarding today's engagements of the Prime Minister, but just if you could say if we could expect any specific briefing or announcement coming in after the meeting with the Defense Secretary Ash Carter tomorrow.
So first on the kind of subjects that were discussed. So as you said, deliberately I'm not going into the specific topics that were discussed, because that was the idea of the meeting, to discuss everything in a very, very candid and
Off the record
format. And it was a very, very good discussion on a whole range of issues, identifying areas and potential for cooperation. And in terms of what the announcements will not be, let us wait till tomorrow. And before the meeting you spoke about with the Defense Secretary, there's the meeting with the President himself. So let us, I think, wait till tomorrow for the briefing after those meetings.
Yes.
So, Namita Prasar from NDTV. Was NSG at all discussed, because that's been a defining point which has come across in his visit as well to Switzerland? And many say there's been a fallout of the American strategic dialogue. In fact, Michael Froman might be coming back, and there has been a problem with the US-China relations as far as their dialogue goes. So how does that impact India's stance of using US to lobby its NSG inclusion?
Well, as I said, today's meetings focused on Prime Minister's interaction with think tanks, and before that the return of cultural artifacts. NSG was not part of those discussions. So let's not get into that. Tomorrow there will be substantive political talks at the White House. Let us await the outcome of those talks.
And just a logistical question, sir. At the White House lunch particularly, is it a very close lunch? Can you share some details of exactly who will be in attendance along with Prime Minister?
So it's a working lunch. So it will be the official delegation on both sides that will be there at the lunch.